What is up, booktube? It is Monty. I am back again, once again with another video, and today I'm going to be doing my best of 2021 video. This was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. All year I have been thinking in my mind, I have been comprising this list. It was beautiful, it was great. And then, the actual end of the year came and I was sitting down to come up with 10 books or, around there. Just like 2020, there are definitely going to be books on this list that have not been released yet. And maybe going forward, if I read a lot more arcs, I will stop doing that. But I read these books in 2021 and I'm going to talk about them because I think that those books were really what pushed out some other things. If I hadn't included some arcs that I read that haven't been released yet, this would be a much easier list. But it was a struggle for me to not include them because they were so good, but also for me to, because I included them, there were some things that I had to just be like, yeah, you don't make the cut. With that disclaimer out of the way, all of these things are things that I would recommend, and most of these things are things that I've talked about in my channel. So there will be videos linked up above, down below, all around. And let's just get into the list. The first two books I'm going to talk about are definitely, there might be some recency bias here. And that is the Darius the Great books, Deserves Better and the first book is Not Okay. In both of these, we are following our main character Darius as he's navigating his little slice of life problems. In this book, he is navigating, a lot of his depression. He has making new friends, not back to Iran, because his grandfather is dying. And then in Deserves Better, we are seeing him back home in Portland following the events that happened in Iran as he navigates his dating life. And both of these are just excellent. In my reading vlog, I called this I want him to get the Lara Jean treatment. I want a full trilogy with Darius. I think that if you liked the To All the Boys books, these are similar in their slice of lifeness, but they are not really a romance. Neither one of these has a Deserves Better has a stronger central romance, but both of these are just about Darius's family life and him learning to navigate that. And I don't know, these books just really hit when I needed them to hit right at the end of the year. And so I'm happy to have read them. And I think that both of them earned a spot on this list. I mean, they're sharing a spot because I think you can read one without the other. But I think when you read both of them, it's just a great time. And I think that because it's a contemporary that has a companion that stands so strong, it would be a shame for me not to include it. The next book that I'm going to talk about, I think might be a surprise just based on how far down the list is, but this list was very competitive. It was a very competitive list, and I'm just, no, I was going to say all of my YA has migrated to the bottom, but there is going to be a YA title in my top 3, so all is not lost. Number 9 is going to be Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. Now, y'all know that Mary H.K. Choi can do no wrong. I love her. This book hit. If there was ever a book on this list that was going to make me cry, it was going to be this one. Luckily, I held it together. Here we are following sisters Jane and June as June struggles with her cancer diagnosis. We're really only ever in Jane's head, but because her sister's using her identity to get the cancer treatments, they become linked in a way that they haven't really been linked since they both left home, or since June left home after graduating from high school. So this one focuses a lot on sisterly dynamics, on Jane's eating disorder that is very prominent throughout the book, and there is a sprinkling of a romance in there. Patrick is a good book boyfriend, and I can say that because Patrick is 24, 25 years old, maybe he's older, and Jane, because it's a Mary H.K. Choi novel, Jane is 21, 22, so it's an age gap, but it's not a creepy one, and it's just great. It's a great little book. I definitely recommend it. I would read the content warning that Mary provides because it does go into some hard-hitting topics and discussions. I do have a reading vlog where I talked about this book. It's good. We have a whole Choices live show discussion. This is a good book, y'all. I don't know what you're doing if you're not reading Mary H.K. Choi. The next one, I think this one shouldn't surprise people, but I haven't talked about it a whole lot, and that is A Chorus Rises by Bethany C. Morrow. This is the companion to A Song Below Water, which I also read this year and I also really enjoyed. But here we are following my girl Naima Bradshaw as she is forced to leave. I think this is also in Portland, or maybe this is Seattle. It's in the Pacific Northwest. That's all I'm remembering. But she leaves the Pacific Northwest to go stay with family in Arizona, I believe. Maybe it's New Mexico. It's like the complete opposite, you know? It's like desert lands from the constant rain. And I just love this. She reconnects with her loco roots. We discover what it really means to be in a loco. It's all about family tradition and family bonding. And I just think that Bethany C. Morrow weaves in actual like black identity into a fantasy world, where they're not in competition with it. Like there's no competition in being black and being in a loco. And in the first book, there's no competition between being black and being a siren. And I think that a lot of people read that first book and were like, you can like all black people are sirens or something, and it was supposed to be a metaphor, but it's not a metaphor. It's more just an added identity. I don't know. Y'all were out here doing some very bad reading of that first book. But this book, it slaps. Naima Bradshaw is the moment. She was kind of the antagonist of the first book, if you can have an antagonist in that book. And so to see her, I was very nervous to follow her, but she's the girl. She's the queen bee of my book world. I love her. I support her. She can do no wrong in my eyes. And that book slapped. Next is a book that I'm very happy slapped, and that is Apples Never Fall by Liane Moriarty. Listen, if you like family drama, if you like suburban mess, no one does it quite like Liane Moriarty. Now, I can't recommend that you read all of her books back to back because they will start to blur together. But here, after a long break since I've read a Liane Moriarty book, this was everything I needed. We are following the Delaney family, I believe. Yes, the Delaneys, who ran a tennis camp in their neighborhood, and they had three or four children, and they pushed all of their children to play tennis. And the story really focuses on Mama Delaney just up and vanishing one day, why she vanished, where she went, and how the strange woman that kind of infiltrated their parents' life had a role in all of that. And it's just great. It was a great cozy time. I love Liane Moriarty. This is a lovely return to form, especially after I did not love Nine Perfect Strangers. So I haven't talked about this one too much on my channel, but I did enjoy it. I do recommend the audiobook. Next is a book that I picked up for a reading vlog, hoping that it would be messy and fun and just like lush. And it wasn't quite as lush as I thought it was going to be. But I think that I can't deny that I had a really good time with this book, and that I love this book, and that I want everyone else to read this book. And that is The Unraveling of Cassidy Holmes by Alyssa R. Sloan. Here we follow the girl group. I forget what their name is, Gloss. But at the center of Gloss, we have Cassidy Holmes. We start the book off knowing that Cassidy Holmes is dead. She commits suicide at the start of the book, and so it is told in dual timelines. One where we see Cassidy Holmes coming into Gloss, and the other timeline as the other former members of Gloss have to reconcile the relationship that they had with Cassidy and the fame, and how they kind of exchanged one for the other over the years. This book was great, especially if you like rich people being messy. It's not quite on the level of like most rich people mess books, because again, we are dealing with some heavier topics than those books usually touch on. But this was just a wonderful time. I loved it. I recommend it. I have a reading vlog for this, so I will leave this linked up in the cards. The next is also included in that same reading vlog, and that is The Final Revival of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton. This book is everything that I wanted Daisy Jones to be and better. This follows our two main characters, Opal and Nev, but we're following our narrator whose father died at an Opal and Nev concert, and it's that concert that kind of pushed Opal and Nev apart and stopped their collaborating, and then Opal's career kind of, I don't want to say it floundered, but it definitely was hindered after that event, and Nev went on to become like the fucking Beatles, like he was a solo man, like he's Elton John in this bitch, right? And it was also on Barack Obama's best list. So if you're not going to take my recommendation, you could at least take his. I don't know his book taste, but I know he liked this, so I'm willing to trust the man. I'm willing to allow it. The next book on this list should also come as no surprise. It should come as no surprise at all. And that is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Do I think that this is her best written book? No. I still think that Kingdom of Ash is unrivaled in the way that Sarah constructs a story. But Nesta is the original homegirl. I read them little Court of Thorns and Roses series, that first trilogy. Like, you're cute, Feyre, but you're not Nesta. She's just not. And so getting to follow Nesta was just a great time. I loved her being the throat goat. I loved her dealing with her traumas. I loved her making new friends. I loved her saving Feyre's little life. And I think what I liked about this is I do think that Sarah J. Maas attempts to like reconcile how she's written Nesta, and I do think that there are times in the story where it doesn't really like make sense or add up. And I think that at this point it was a little strange to try and rehabilitate this character that not we, but like people have already decided they do not like. So I don't know how successful it is in rehabilitating Nesta for people who don't like her, because you've made her such an unlikable person that some of the explanations that we receive here, and kind of in the other books as well, they didn't work for me. They didn't. But listen, I love Nesta being messy. She is the messy bitch that lives for drama, and that's all she needed to be for me to love her. And that's what she is here. And then she kind of like grows a little and is like, becomes a little less miserable, but she's still very pitiful. Like, she spends the first half of this book being just utterly pitiful and getting dick down. And you know what? I love that for her. Entering the top three, the top three, I think, are kind of where it's hard for me to place them in terms of like what is actually number one, because I think all three of these books are very different, but all three of them are books that I cannot imagine not having read. And so coming in at number three is going to be Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. This is probably the best conclusion to a series that I have read in my entire existence on this planet. When I was reading this, I was thoroughly convinced that Fonda Lee was shooting herself in the foot. I was reading and I was seeing time passing by, and I was like, Fonda, girl, can we talk? Can we have a moment? Because I think you're making a mistake here. And she definitely wasn't. She definitely said, Monty, shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down, and just wait. And I think that it was the perfect conclusion. It was just as, I think it's the most well-balanced book in the series in terms of giving us character progression and story arcs, but also action. I do think that like Jade City gave you a lot of actiony moments, and then Jade War kind of gave you more political machinations. We're maneuvering, we're exploring the diaspora, like we're doing a lot of like character work. And then I think that Jade Legacy really brought it home. It was these really punchy moments of action that were followed by these like great character introspections and moving pieces on the board. And then when you're trying to like, I think that Fonda Lee does a really great thing of like zooming in on the chessboard. And so we're watching Shay make these decisions and like make her plays, and Hilo is trying to make his plays, and you see Aimata off in the background, like the shadowy figure making her, moves and positions. And you're just like so in it that like at the end of the book, when Fonda Lee pulls up and you get the bird's eye view of the chessboard, and it's like, oh fuck, a true masterclass in writing. I can't imagine having, like, I just discovered, well, I had heard of the Greenbone Saga before last year, but the wait for me between when I read Jade War and when I read Jade Legacy at the beginning of this year was not very long. And so I can't imagine how it was to like be one of those people that had found the Greenbone Saga as they were releasing, because I think Jade War came out in like 2019, I think it was like 2019, maybe like late 2020. No, it was definitely 2019, because I definitely saw it at the library, and we were not going to the library in 2020. So I can't imagine being one of those readers. I can't imagine. Y'all were suffering, but this is an ice cold, glass of water after a hot summer's day, a nice little lemonade, if you will. This book is unrivaled in what it can do. I think that if you are not a big fantasy reader, the Greenbone Saga is a fantastic place to start, because the magic system, while, it's intricate, sure, but it's explained very simplistically. It's very easy to understand how they're able to do all the things that they can do. And then a lot of it is just like really masterful character work. Even characters that I personally don't care about, they get really great arcs. They get really great arcs in this. I don't think there's a character in the series that really gets shortchanged. And it's just, you need to read it. What are you doing? Now, the top two books are both my 2022 releases. And maybe it's wrong of me to put them so high up on the list, but I'm doing it anyway. It's my list. I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. So I want you to know that both of these books I'm about to mention are wonderful debuts. You definitely need to have both of them pre-ordered. I think at number 2, again, this is like the top 3 are the most arbitrary on this list. I think at number 2, I'm going to go with Ophelia After All by Raquel Marie, because it was just a delight to read. But this book was a beacon of hope, a ray of sunshine on a dark, dark day. We are following our main character, Ophelia. I want to say her last name is Rojas, but don't hold me to that. Please don't hold me to that. So we follow Ophelia, who is known at her, like, in her little friend group as always having these very intense crushes on boys. She has her little rose garden. She is that girl. Like, she is just a cute person living her cute life. And then one day, she decides, well, she doesn't decide, like, that was a horrible way to phrase that. But one day she finds herself having a crush on a girl, and it kind of flips her. I don't want to say it flips it completely upside down, but we get to follow her. It's not a coming out book so much as it is a coming to terms with who you are book. And it was just written so beautifully. It was the friend group that really sold me on this. If you just want a really solid friend group, it's gonna warm your heart. I would not go into this book expecting a romance. It's very much slice of life contemporary, because I do think if you go into a romance, you know, your expectations were not in the right arena. But it was so good to read a debut that was giving me hope. It was just number 2 book of the year for sure. Definitely. There's not much I can say because, one, I read it months and months ago, but also I don't want to, like, you guys can't rush out and read it right now, but it is out next month in February. So the wait for this one is not too long. And then my number 1 best book of the year has to go to Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. This book was on my most anticipated. It was probably Ophelia and Portrait of a Thief were probably my 2 biggest anticipated releases that I was aware of for most of the year. Like, there was a solid few months where I knew that both books were coming out and I was looking forward to both books. And so getting to read them was chef's kiss. But Portrait of a Thief, we follow a group of 5 college students who have a varied history with one another, as they are tasked with stealing some looted, fountainheads. That's what the word I was looking for. They are tasked with stealing back some looted fountainheads. Apparently, I think it was during I'm not gonna give a year, but during one of the times that the West tried to invade, in China, they sacked the old palace in the story. I believe that this is also based on actual real events, but I don't know. Like, the sacking of the old summer palace actually happened. Whether or not the West stole these fountainheads and has them on display in museums, I didn't do any Googling. But that's the premise of the story, that the West looted these, Zodiac fountainheads from the old summer palace and has them on display. And our 5 college students are tasked with getting them back. And it gave me everything I wanted it to give. It was giving heist. It was giving me Ocean's 8. It was giving me high-speed car chases. It was giving me y'all are too stupid to function. It was just everything that I wanted this book to be. Everything that the premise promises me, it delivered on. And all while also giving like these really great discussions on what it meant to be part of the Chinese diaspora, on what it meant to like grieve and loss and colonization. And like, it was just chef's kiss. Grace, I don't know what she's gonna come up with next, but I'm highly looking forward. I think she's in medical school, so if she was writing this wonderful book while also getting into medical school, doing medical things, who am I? The talent unrivaled. So definitely has to be my favorite book of the year. Definitely one that I think you need to have pre-ordered, on hold. You need to get your hands on this. I do have a reading vlog for that is scheduled to go out closer to release date, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you all. So those are my top 10 books of the year. I would say let me know what your favorite books were down below, but at this point I feel like I'm kind of one of the last people to jump on this bandwagon, so you can remind me anyway. If you don't want to do that, you can always drop an emoji down there, and we can just do yellow or blue hearts today because I'm too lazy to think of something more creative. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again soon with another video. But until then, and until next time, bye.